that if you work hard like that, that you're going to be successful. But then on the other end, we have this whole idea of, even if we do work that hard, that is only room enough for one of us. It's only, or a couple of us, or, you have that whole concept of being the token Black person, or a company filling their quota. So once that quota is filled, it's not room for all of us. And we've talked about this before, where that's in essence, we're passing on a survival technique because we're in a system that is not our own. And so what happens is even, and it's not even just, to me, a particular, it's a cultural thing. I think it's all Black people have decided that this is what we're saying to our children, to work 10 times harder. And then that gives the perception that if you work hard like that, that you're going to be successful. But then on the other end, we have this whole idea of, even if we do work that hard, that is only room enough for one of us. It's only, or a couple of us, or, you have that whole concept of being the token Black person, or a company filling their quota. So once that quota is filled, it's not room for all of us. And so, that's hard, because what that does is then it creates that animosity amongst one another, because we're already competing with one another for many different things. And then we're also competing with one another for resources now, because our resources is coming from a job. Our resources is coming from a job that we're fighting for, which we're also told to work 10 times harder for. So it's definitely an issue in our community to continue to create, to have that narrative. So how do we even change that narrative? What do we do? Because to me, it comes a lot from the fact that we are in this system that does not belong to us. Like it's not our system. So it's a whole nother space. So how do we even change that narrative and say, well, are we talking about creating jobs, creating our own spaces? What are we going to do to change that narrative?
Well,
I can.
if I could just respond to one thing, and then Colette, you could go ahead. Um, Maat, you said there's not room for all of us. I beg to differ. There is room for all of us. Here's the issue. The
Mhm.
people at the top have convinced us that there isn't room for all of us. Because
Right, right.
here's the reality. If I'm at the top, right,
Mhm.
and there's some wheels at the bottom that has to keep that needs to keep, the hamster wheels
Mhm.
to keep the machine going. I could hoard all of the resources. Let's say I hoard all the resources here, and I tell you, out of 100, I'm only presenting to you that there's only 20%. The way that I get this machine to keep going is to tell those at the bottom that it's really a first come, first serve. Because once I tell them that, once I say there's not enough room for everyone, so it's a first come, first serve, those wheels start to go real fast, right?
Mhm.
Because no,
Mhm.
those people at the bottom is competing. While they're competing, what they're doing is maintaining, right, the machine. Because the faster they run on that hamster wheel, right, the more the machine is pumped.
Right,
Okay. So
right.
someone at the top says, no, we really only have 20%, when in reality it's 100%. So that's the only thing I have a little bit of pushback on. There is enough, right? There
Well,
is enough.
the
Go ahead.
reason, okay, I'm
No, go
sorry.
ahead,
The
Maya.
reason
It's fine.
I do say that I do believe, like, for even for example, us in this YouTube space, we know that there's so many people. Like, we have a group of people in our chat right now, right? But we'll have the mindset of, I have to compete against you. We'll have that mindset. But the issue that I do have, that I see, is that when it comes to higher earner jobs, like bigger companies, that they're not hiring a lot of Black people. Like, they're not hiring. So so let me ask you this. Are we saying that we're not going after those jobs, even though they're higher earner jobs? Or are we saying that we need to find jobs that are more linked to us, because there's enough of those jobs for us? Like, because what I see is that they're not going to hire hundreds or thousands of Black people for their company. but they will hire hundreds or thousand people for low level jobs. So that's kind of where I'm at odds with it.
So what I'll say to that is I feel sometimes we also, us as a people, are don't take enough responsibility when it comes to that, right? There's always, of course, there's a system set in place, right? However, I feel that we sometimes could be our own um detriment. So when we talk about people at a higher level, right? It's when we get into that position, are we looking back and saying, okay, I'm gonna pull up, Colette, I'm gonna pull up my aunt, I'm gonna pull up, Hafina? Are we doing that enough? I don't think so. And because once we get into that position, we are feeling that, no, I'm the token one. I have to remain in this position. So I
Mhm.
cannot bring up my aunt
Mhm.
because my aunt is going to compete with me. So I feel that even though, yes, there's a system in place, but if we together get it in our mindset that we can pull up our Sean, we can pull up a Hafina. I don't care what the system has to say in place. They will start to see that and bring up, not because the color of our skin, but bring up qualified ones of us and not look at us, each other, as if we are competition. And I'm so glad that you brought up the example of the YouTube space. YouTube is worldwide, but
Mhm.
there are Black um creators that feel that they should hold that spot, and because they should hold that spot, no one else could come in that spot. So I'm not going to share whatever I learned. I'm not going to, let you get all of my subscribers. And that's what I mean, as far as like we don't hold ourselves enough accountable, as far as making sure we're doing the work to bring up our own people. The other thing is, on a smaller scale, the reason why we do have to tell our kids you have to work harder is because we still have not come together in the sense of, I'll give you an example. When my little son started to go to school, started to go to school, the teacher kept sending home letters to me saying, and he's only 2 years, he's 3 years old now, but he started going to school at 2. She's saying, oh, he's not holding the pen right, or he's not focusing when we're reading. I mean, silly stuff.
Mhm.
So I said, I will come up there. I will come up there and I will volunteer in the class. Do you think that she thought I would do something like that? No, she felt that she could continue to complain about my child, and I will do nothing and they will push him to the side, right? But and on the smaller scale, as us, in building that family structure and saying that, you know what, I am going to get involved, I am going to show you that I'm present in my child's life, and you're not going to take um I don't know how you say it in English, like take set pun, like, how do you say it, you're not going to pick, like, pick on my child, so therefore we are coming together. They're going to see, okay, this is okay, starts with this Black family. Okay, so we're changing the narrative of what a Black family, what Black people looks like, what they do. They are involved. They do not, we're not going to just push this child to the side. So therefore, on that small scale, it would now look like, okay, you don't have to work as hard, you don't have to work harder because Bobby over there is doing the same thing that you are. No. When we call my son's parents in, they are going to come, right? They are going to come. So I hope I made that example clear enough, but it starts two things. We don't take accountability as far as how much power we have to help ourselves and help our our friends, our family, the ones that look like us, that are qualified. And we do not start on the smaller scale to make sure that we are a collective, to show that we do care about a community, we do care about raising our kids. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I do feel that that's in order for us to change the narrative of you don't have to work as hard, we have to also do the work too, because there is a system in place. We can't be naive about that.